r/ask Reddit. What video game should get a sequel, but likely never will? The Saboteur, open world GTA style game set in Nazi occupied Paris where you play as an Irish race car driver / ex-IRA soldier who goes around blowing up Nazi watchtowers and pro-Nazi radio towers. Oh, and your base of operations is in a secret room in the back of a titty bar and there was a $2 DLC that made half the dancers topless. This would be my pick as well. So fun. And some of the crazy shit that would happen and blowing shit up. Or the RE just ducking up like a Nazi plowing his own transport truck right over an SS officer. Such fun. And the whole black and white to color was amazing. I really want Skate 4. Portal 3. That has a better chance of coming out than most the games here. Valve can't count to 3. Spore. I want the Spore we were promised but didn't get. And I want it served over EA's smoking carcass. That 2006 footage is still one of a kind. What a travesty. Crimson Skies. Alternate Earth 1930s steampunk with sky pirates, giant Nazi mechas and dope flying. Update for a new console. Give it a little more open world gameplay and some ground missions and bam. That's a winner. I always look for this on these types of question. You may know this but there are 2 versions installments of Crimson Skies. One for PC and one for Xbox. Also there's a board game and Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. So basically a movie as well. The open world of the Xbox version, which was canonically the sequel, I believe, was great and there were some gameplay elements like the turrets and some of the multiplayer modes that were pretty cool. The PC version though, it had crazy customization of planes and a great soundtrack and all sorts of crazy depth. You could play in first person with fully modeled cockpits. Completely changes the feel of the game. I found out about it a few years ago when I managed to get it to run on Windows 10. The graphics are kind of bad. Oddly enough the cockpits are higher quality even though they're a non-default option. And the world is confined to missions, but I'd say this is a better version overall. If the 2 games were combined right and the story voice acting was the same slightly over the top, it'd be a killer game. Hell, for additional multiplayer, throw 100 planes in the air and make it a battle royale. But it'd have to have a story mode. It had just the right balance of arcade to realism and surprisingly deep lore. Stick to that and I'm happy. James Bond games. Like What the Duck Happened? GoldenEye was top tier entertainment at the time. You'd think that a FPS game based on being James ducking Bond would still dominate. Time Splitters. That series was amazing and the multiplayer was ahead of its time. Particularly the map editor. I'd love to see what a modern day version would look like. Scrolled way too far to find this. That game had everything. The campaign was fun and had jokes, but the multiplayer and challenge modes were where it thrived. I loved going through challenges to unlock more ridiculous players and the level editor was surprisingly advanced for its time. A Time Splitters game in this generation could be incredible. Bully. If I could get a sequel to anything it's this. It blows my mind how no one else since has tapped into a sandbox style campus game. Closest thing you can get to this kind of experience is Persona. Weirdly enough. Even then the 2 games are night and day. Legend of Dragoon. This game made me bawl my eyes out. The story was amazing and I loved the characters so much. The combat had a fun, really unique mechanic for the time. And love it, Kirby Air Ride. I haven't seen anyone else say this yet, but man, let's get Kirby Air Ride 2 on the Switch with an upgraded city trial. I recently bought a second-hand Wii just so I could play Kirby Air Ride again, and it's just as much fun as I remember it being. Jet Set Radio Future. It came out in 2002 for the original Xbox and was a masterpiece. The soundtrack was unreal too. At the very least it deserves a remastered version. The original Jet Set Radio was out for Dreamcast in 2000. I played a demo at KB Toys, throwback game store, and thought it was a dope concept, especially cause I was into skating as a kid. Then I got Future for the Xbox and played the shit out of that game. LA Noire. An LA Noire sequel set in the 70s or 80s is my wet dream. LA Vice. The name writes itself. Half-Life 2. Episode 2. How is this so far down? This is literally the classic example of a game that needs a sequel but will never receive one. Perhaps we are old, dude. New generations did not play HL and there are a lot of video games out there. HL3 will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Conker's Bad Fur Day. That game was a ducking riot. Pokemon Snap. Would have been perfect for the Wii or Wii U. The Simpsons Hit and Run. I've scrolled down a fair bit. How has no one said this? A sequel or a remaster would be brilliant. Castle Crashers. Not the same, but I hear there's an Alien Hominid 2 coming out. If the gods of game development are listening, I would really like a Black and White 3, ideally with a sandbox mode. War of the Monsters. Most underrated caged game ever. First PS2 game I ever owned because my dad saw me playing it at Toys R Us and bought it for me in anticipation of my buying the system. He thought it looked cool. A current gen War of the Monsters would be amazing. Alan Wake deserves a real sequel, not the garbage that was released. Oh hell yeah, I loved Alan Wake. It was such a unique experience, though I'm not sure what they would exactly do for a sequel. Bloodborne. God, I need a Bloodborne 2. Agreed. Not enough good games out there with Eldritch Horror. Jade Empire. Such a great and underrated game. I'm still surprised at how many people who owned an Xbox never heard of or played that game. Titanfall 2. Best movement in any FPS besides maybe Quake. Best single player I've ever played. And Titan Combat and Pilot Combat make you feel like the biggest badass in existence. But Alex happened. EA is in charge, and the game's player base is just a few thousand very loyal players. Since the game doesn't get updates anymore, makes me mega sad. Mount and Blade. A new Spyro game that is true to the original trilogy. PLS thank you. I can keep replaying the 3 OGs over and over. I love them, man. Pokemon Colosseum XD. Gale of Darkness. If you ask me, these were the best 3D Pokemon games, and I feel as though more can be done with the region as the second game shows wild Pokemon returning. Shadow of the Colossus. Literally any Valve game. Star Wars Republic Commando. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.